person who's leading them is not here, it'll be more difficult.
So far, two, yeah, one, two. A bunch of them are you guys.
Okay, good. Perfect.
I know.
So you guys are all Med Ed portal. The ones
ours were, yeah, this time around.
Ashley's one.
Hello, this is Sarah.
Hi, Sarah. Well, I think
How are you?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Thank you.
So we'll maybe do introductions now that I think the 3 members of our community of practice have called in. I think one more person's going to call in, but I think maybe we should get started just to be respectful of your time that you are calling in. So maybe those of us that are in the room will introduce ourselves, and then we'll let those of you on the phone introduce yourselves as well. So my name's Heather Hyman. I'm a general internist, and I'm heading up the education collection of the National Collaborative for Education to Address the Social Determinants of Health. And this is a collection that we're trying to build upon, and we really appreciate getting the chance to have folks from other institutions help us with growing this collection in multiple ways. Meeta, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Meeta Sangvi-Goyal. I am also a primary care physician, and my educational role is as director of the Health Equity and Advocacy thread here, which is a longitudinal 4-year curriculum at Feinberg. But I'm also involved with the collaborative, actually on the research side as well. So looking at best practices for using GIS or geospatial technology for identifying and addressing social determinants of health.
Hi.
Hi, who just joined?
Hi, this is Monica Yepes-Rios.
Terrific, great. So we're just starting to introduce ourselves, Monica. I'm Heather, and I'm kind of leading this committee to build the educational collection, and I'm a general internist. Meeta Goyal just introduced herself, and then we'll go around.
I'm Claire Petrie. I'm the coordinator here, and you've been receiving a lot of emails from me already. Thank you guys for joining me today.
I'm Bridget Dolan. I'm another.
Go ahead, Claire.
Does someone have a question?
I think we'll do introductions here in the room, and then we'll get introductions from the 4 folks that are on the phone. So, Claire.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Claire Petrie. I'm the coordinator working on the grant, and you've received lots of emails from me, so thank you so much for joining today.
And I'm Bridget Dolan. I'm a general internist also at Northwestern, and I work on women's health, which is how I came to be part of this committee and collaborative.
I'm Sarah Hale. I'm a second-year internal medicine resident. Joined this committee as an interest in medical education and social determinants of health.
Hi, I'm Katie Wright. I'm a researcher in family medicine, and I'm working on the GIS project as well as the research too.
Great. And then maybe we can get those on the phone to introduce themselves. So, Monica, did you want to start?
Sure. Monica Yepes-Rios. I know all my emails say Anna, so it's very confusing, but I go by my middle name, Monica. I'm at the Cleveland Clinic, new to the group, and kind of looking forward to it. I'm also relatively new to Cleveland and the Cleveland Clinic in the last year and a half, and work on the one part of Cleveland that has a very large underserved Hispanic community, so trying to build up our education venues there for students and residents.
Wonderful. And then maybe Elizabeth, I don't know if you all know each other or if you're in separate parts of Cleveland.
We are probably only a mile down the street, but no, I have not met you yet. Hello, fellow Clevelander.
We have not met, yes, hello.
If you need good restaurants, let me know. So my name is Elizabeth Painter. I am, restaurants happen to be more of my forte. I am a clinical health psychologist, actually, at the VA hospital here in Cleveland. So I do my clinical work in cardiology and organ transplant, but I spend the rest of my time working on kind of innovations in interdisciplinary education, both on the residency level, and then I do some work over at Case Western's medical school as well.
Wonderful.
Great. And how about Susan?
Hi, thanks. I'm Susan Hasty. I'm a faculty member at the Family Medicine Residency Program in Hennepin County in Minneapolis. And I just joined this. I'm feeling like a very much of a newbie in terms of collaborative work. Okay, good. Then I won't be so lonely. I put together some curriculum. I'm interested in curriculum, and so this appealed to me.
Perfect. And then Sarah.
Yes, hi, I'm Sarah Tarek. I'm from the University of Arkansas.
at the medical school here. I'm a general internist as well, and have been teaching the practice of medicine course for about 15 years. Have passed it on to someone else, but still very involved in it. And I help organize and run the curriculum having to do with social determinants of health and health equity. And then I do a lot of bias and healthcare work as well here.
Terrific. Sorry I mispronounced your name, but I got it.
No worries.
We have one more person that entered the room. I'll let David introduce himself.
Hi, sorry I'm a late arrival here. I'm David Liss. I am a health services researcher at General Internal Medicine and Geriatrics here at Northwestern.
Great. So I think we asked you all from our COP to call in so that we could talk with you a little bit about what we've been doing to try to curate this education collection and provide some instructions. And I don't know whether Claire has sent you guys any of the detailed instructions yet, but we will follow this up if not.
You guys all received the guide, the survey guide?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But we can go through it, questions and.
Yeah, I mean, so I hope it would be helpful if I went briefly through the survey guide that we have, and I don't know whether you all have it in front of you or not, but I'm going to assume not everyone has it up in front of them, and just sort of go through, and people should interrupt me if they have questions about this, as well as if they have experience with it, those in the room who have already done reviews. I mean, so the idea behind this education collection is that many of us are doing work in curriculum and trying to grow curriculum in social determinants. There are a lot of accrediting organizations that want curriculum from institutions where there's lots of experience and also places where people have no experience with this and are just kind of biting this off because they are a general educator and they need to be teaching this. And we thought there was a role for having a repository of curricula that you could basically lift and teach. And the ideal curricula are ones that you don't have to do very much to teach. And so we are sort of starting out by trying to cull everything that's out there kind of available to us either for free or for a small amount of money we're able to pay to kind of get curricula and review them. And then also to ask people to submit curricula as we grow our COP and we become more known. People hopefully will know that this is a place that they can submit resources. And the last bit is actually being able to share experiences trying to adopt a curriculum that you might find on this page, because there's lots of great room for Community Hub and a blog in which we talk about kind of our experiences adopting and trying to transfer curriculum. So, you know, MedEd Portal is obviously a really wonderful resource for all things medical education in terms of curricula, and we wanted to make sure that we had everything that MedEd Portal had to offer and was up to date and appropriate in terms of social determinants. And we also made sure that MedEd Portal did not feel that we were stepping on their toes, and they absolutely did not. They're open access and happy for us to cite them and link to them. And so we've been kind of trying to categorize the resources through a questionnaire that's on a survey that we put together that Claire sends out. And then also included in that survey is sort of a paragraph. And so if you go onto our website, sdoheducation.org, and click on Education Collection, you can see that we have 81, I believe, resources. 88 resources. So we're almost up to 100 resources that have been selected. And what I think is cool is that these folks in the room and others who are not here right now have actually looked at 121 resources and found that there were not all of them sort of met a criteria for acceptance. And we try to talk about those resources that we have some questions about whether they should or should not be accepted. We started out doing this in pairs where there would be 2 people reviewing each resource. And we found that we just weren't able to get far enough quickly enough, and that there was a lot of work in reconciling our summaries. And after people got enough experience, people have felt comfortable kind of reviewing these on their own. But it's absolutely an option to start out by being on a team or pairing with one of us, and that might be a good idea for some of the first reviews. So before I sort of go through the sort of guide with some guidelines for reviewing, are there questions or comments from people on the phone or in the room?
This is Susan from Hennepin County. I'm assuming that the one titled Educational Collection Review Guide is what we're talking about?
Yes, that is right, what I was gonna...
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Perfect. And then I would just like to say up front, I'd appreciate being part of a pair or having a mentor as I get going.
I think we will definitely be able to.
Sorry, this is Monica. Likewise, I think that starting off, just to make sure kind of we're all on the same plane, even though we have the rubric, I think you had shared, Claire, but I think that's just helpful to be able to just bounce off ideas starting off.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely, that's great. And so sort of in terms of we've actually gone through a lot of the MedEd portal resources, but there are still more to farm out, and that might be some of the good ones to look at first, just because they kind of are model resources for what would be kind of optimal in terms at least of the organization and the presentation and the clarity. And I think where we have sometimes found the MedEd portal ones lacking is that they may not actually relate that much to social determinants. They may be something where, for example, we found ones on the opioid epidemic, but they were on how to deal with an overdose, really just extremely science and medicine and important, but not something that we would feature as part of our mission. So we're generally asking some very basic questions, kind of where does this come from? So what school, department, or program wrote this resource, and where are they located? Where was the resource implemented, if you can tell? If you don't have a way of telling, you can write not applicable or skip the item, and that may be more difficult with some web-based resources. The source, so where did you get it from? Was it a website? Was it MedEd portal? Was it the Society of Teachers of Family Medicine website, some other national organization's website? Then comes the hard part, which is the SDOH topic. So what topic does it deal with? And if you're on the website, you can see that you have some items you can click on that are topics in SDOH, but they are there are only 5, and if you click see more, you can see 10. But in fact, we have something like 25 different domains that we kind of decided upon by some work our group had already done, that Meetha had done and Karen Sheehan had done in the UME and GME and UME spaces in terms of a scoping review. And it's been interesting to see what domains there's lots and lots of information about and what domains there's much less about. And I had brought over that page that you sent, that you actually were able to forward me kind of all the topics and how much there is on each one of them. So topics that there's a lot of information on tend to be, actually right now, cultural humility, culture, that's a big one. Obviously, general social determinants, there's a lot.
Feels like LGBT.
A lot of stuff on LGBT, which we felt is part of our domain. And then, yeah, maybe you could pull it up, Claire, but areas where there was much less, there was nothing, Meetha, this is a passion of yours, on interpreters, there was essentially nothing. So there was very little on things like nutrition, on criminal justice health, which has different names, but those have been areas that I've been trying to kind of stalk the web and do Google searches on, which we can talk about, but I've been kind of taking that part on of trying to see what there is. So at any rate, we ask that you select up to 5 topics that are as specific as you can be, where you would want to index your resource. There's not perfect agreement on these, but it's nice if you're in a pair and you can get an idea of what another person might be thinking in terms of the topics. There's a lot on general social determinants, just very broad-based, or community health, things like that. So then the type of learner, so if you can tell, who is this aimed for? It should be aimed for a health professions learner, although there have been some really good resources that were aimed at high school students learning about health, and it seemed like they were on a top. So I think we were being a little bit more broad-based, especially when the topics are very, they're not covered very well, but in general, we are looking at health professions learners. Those could be genetic counseling students, they could be, people that are physical therapy students, but of course a lot of them are medical students, a lot of them are residents that they're aimed at. If this, for a lot of these, a particular medical specialty is not relevant, but we do ask that if it seems to be focused on psychiatry trainees or seems to be focused on some discipline within medicine, that you check that if relevant. And then that you try to document what different educational methods the tool takes the tool assumes that you'll be using. So there could be something that has tons of different resources or tons of different sort of curricular components, like it starts with a large group didactic, and then it goes to everyone breaks out and does a simulation. And then there's a part where you go to the real world. So then you would check all of those things: experiential, simulation case, lecture case. Then we ask about outcomes, and those are hard to find. I mean, even in MedEd Portal, I actually was surprised. I thought that MedEd Portal required outcomes, but they don't require many hard outcomes. Sometimes it's just learner satisfaction. To try to be really clear, and I won't read all of this, but it's sort of like, first of all, are you looking at a person's self-reported outcome, whether that be their self-reported knowledge, like I learned a lot about social determinants of health in general, or their self-reported confidence in performing a skill in a simulated setting, or their self-reported confidence in a real setting, or was it measured, that they actually reported outcomes like their measured knowledge on a test that they had done, or their measured behavior on a checklist in an OSCE, for example, or in a real-world direct observation. Also, if the outcomes are reported, we ask that you say, like, was this designed to just give the outcomes after the curriculum, or was it pre and post, or was it a randomized trial, which I don't know if anyone's found a randomized trial yet in any of their data. And then the learner assessment. So we hope that a lot of people are including learner assessments, and what level of assessment is it? So is it knowledge assessment, an attitude assessment, or is it an assessment of skills? And then we ask you to make a judgment about whether the curriculum should be included on the website, which is obviously kind of the most important box to check. And if you say no, we'll take a look at that and see if we have any questions for you about why. Yeah, so some of the reasons that we have rejected items, or that we think we should reject items, are very outdated content. So it may be that it's outdated content, like it's talking about the Affordable Care Act from like 2000, when was that passed anyways? But 2010. So like it's 2011, and it's talking, about something that is not in its current form, although, well, we thought it was going to totally go away. Anyway, something very outdated, or often what outdated means is that terminology is being used that's not used anymore, and that's really kind of frowned upon terminology. So, and we sometimes have discussions about that. Like the biggest thing we see is this idea of cultural competence. Like, do you reject something just because people are using the term cultural competence instead of cultural humility or other terms? And we probably will talk about that today. I don't know what people think about that, actually. It might be worth a pause, like, because that's come up a lot.
I would probably not reject based on terminology alone, but the other piece that you're probably about to talk about is when we're reviewing these resources. This is Meetha speaking, by the way. There is the opportunity for the reviewers to write a sort of an encapsulation of the curriculum, and you can point out, areas where this would be relevant and applicable, but also perhaps some cautionary notes. Mm-hmm. And I think that might be a place where, if you really think it's a well-done curriculum, but it's just the terminology that is outdated, perhaps including a note about that within the review to say, cautionary note, if presenting these materials, please understand that terminology has been updated. However, we find the content or the delivery method to be relevant or applicable for the learners today. So that would be my
Can you type that out and share it with us? I like the way you phrased that.
Yeah, I mean, we should definitely.
And that might just be, maybe that would be if we find that happens pretty regularly, maybe there's some boilerplate language that we could disseminate to include within.
I think that's great. If you've already put that in something, maybe you can point it to, you didn't, okay. That's fine. Another outdated thing was, one that I did reject that the committee talked about and agreed, I remember, was one that was talking about the need to use a lot of low-fat things and margarine. Like, it was actually advocating using margarine. It was a nutrition thing. And it was like, that's kind of hard to that is what we used to think, but that was a long time ago, and I worried about having information that could actually be the opposite of what we would want to teach.
We actually reviewed one this time that we'll probably talk about similarly about opioids. It seems like the curriculum was written prior to the opioid epidemic, and so it seems like that curriculum would need to be greatly updated to look at epidemiology today rather than the past. So that was a little bit of, I don't know how you rated that one, Sarah, but we were both on that one.
Yeah,
So
I think I maybe didn't delve into the specifics as much as you did, so I might have.
Yes, I mean, here's two people that were a pair reviewing, because Sarah's been reviewing along with Lisa, and they didn't have exactly the same opinion, so we'll talk about it today. And you guys are welcome to stay on the phone for that whole discussion, but you also, I know that you were going to call in for the first bit, and I also want to make sure I respect their time. How long are they planning to be on the phone?
We said about 50 minutes, though, but
okay, all right, I'll go a little bit more quickly. Other reasons that we might reject something are the content's really poor, like it's really poorly referenced, like, we don't expect everyone's an expert, but you're reading things that you think are like patently not true. That would probably not be a good curriculum. The content's not a curriculum. We see that a lot. So somebody has gone to a conference and they're presenting about the cool curriculum they did, but it's not the curriculum, and that we definitely don't want.
So we sometimes then ask Claire to reach out and say, do you have the curriculum? We'd love to review it.
Yeah, and I think we'll be doing probably more of that as we get further into things. Yeah, absolutely. Content doesn't address social determinants, and the content, really, truly, can't be replicated. I guess that's a little bit what we were talking about, and then we might try to get the actual content. And then we have a little we have a little example template that you could follow that sort of talks about this. We want to be really careful not to just sort of trash the resource. Like if the resource is being trashed, it probably shouldn't be on the website. But it's fine to say, you should probably do it a little bit like, it doesn't have to be a sandwich, but it probably should lead with, this is some, these are some facts about this curriculum. This is why we think this is, has some benefits, and you might want to be aware, caution that, we would advise. Dave has one where he read something that had 2 units, and one unit was not applicable to social determinants, but the other was. And so he said, I would use unit 2 of this, or I would use module 2 of this unit. And that's the end of our kind of instructions. So what sorts of questions or thoughts do people have?
This is going to sound kind of silly. This is Elizabeth. How do we know what to review?
That's not silly, Claire.
So I will send you an email each month with the number of resources you indicated on that sign-up, Genius, or if you did every other month. So I will send that to you. But if you ever come across any resources, you can send them to us, and we can say yes or no, or if you would like to review them in the future.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, we're definitely looking for more. And I think as we get more up on the web, we will want to have more people doing what I'm trying to do, which is a Google search in which I'm taking curriculum, health, and some topic, which we want to go through all the topics, but going from the least covered up. And then there's not a great way of doing a Google search that's sort of something standardized like you would do for a systematic review, but I'm just basically kind of doing a Google advanced search and then looking at the first 10 pages that come up and going through everything and trying to quickly find things that look like they might be curricula. And, for any given search I'm doing, I'm maybe finding 2 or 3 things that are an actual curricula that looks like it's worth, reviewing. It may be very poor. So this can take between 2 minutes, like something was really not right, up to, what's the longest you guys have spent on a curriculum?
A couple hours. Some of it's though because it's really good and I accidentally but you also want to, some of them are a little more expensive, and so as you do it, you figure, sometimes I do look at every last thing and every single slide, and some, it's easier when you can tell right away that they may not be appropriate, because then you don't have to do that. But some are quite expensive.
I also had a question. How about, so would you be sending it to, so if we're going to be pairing it first, you'll send it to both of us so we'll know who else is reviewing it, and we'll have an opportunity to review it individually and then as a dyad, perhaps?
Correct, yes.
So what we're doing is each person
was, question too.
Yeah. Each person was filling out the survey just to kind of, it just keeps you honest of I'm really going through this, and it's just an organized way of going through it. And then you would reconcile the paragraph and your decisions.
So I will send you both yours and your partner's information, and you guys could talk and decide
Gotcha.
yes and no and
No,
any questions.
I like your guide. I think it's extremely helpful. So thank you for that.
Yes, thank you for spelling it out.
Yeah, so this is Susan again. When you assign it, you will send us a curriculum and a partner then, correct?
Correct.
Perfect.
And it does get easier.
And what's your usual like turnaround when you receive it and the kind of expected return back to you?
So we try to do it every month. I know everyone indicated how many they could do per month on the sign up, but I can always touch base with you to see specifically how many you can do. But we try to do it every month, and then we meet at the end of the month to discuss any questions.
So you would have a month essentially.
But as you know, people do it every other
Okay.
month. So if you'd like 2 months, if you feel that was
right. For those in the room that might not realize, the community of practice sort of committed to do a certain number of things, and they were given like certain amounts of credit for things they were doing, and so there's all different things that you do as part of it, and this is one of them.
Right. No, yeah, that's fine.
Oh,
like,
and your
just
name
out of
goes
curiosity, what
on.
kind of volume are you?
Yeah.
Again?
But you're going to ask a good question, which is who's on here looking at these resources? Is that what you're going to ask, Monica? I think.
No, actually, my question was a little broader. Just out of curiosity, what kind of volume are you getting? Like, how many are you getting per month, or?
Oh, what volume are people receiving, or
how many resources are we reviewing
No,
per
like,
month?
right, like
I know.
overall.
Yeah, so we're finding these right now. They're still like found things, and so they're going into a spreadsheet, and we're just sort of going down the spreadsheet and trying to review as many things. So right now on the spreadsheet, there's like 230 resources, I think.
okay.
Oh, okay.
But has anyone submitted a curriculum, Claire? We
No.
just went live with the submission website, and now we want to drum up traffic for curriculum submissions, I think. And we want to be careful about how we do it because we're not promising that your curriculum will be posted, but we want to see as many curricula as possible. And we MedEd Portal just has very, very demanding requirements for getting your curriculum on. And so we want to be much more flexible than that to allow people who have a piece of a curriculum or who haven't written an entire instructor's guide or have a lot of outcome data to feel like they could submit with a lower bar but not no review.
I'm planning on submitting one. I just have to.
Ooh.
I mean, it's a rotation, so it's
Great.
gonna
There are some rotations that are up on the site.
good. I mean, it'll have to be modified some, but I'll send it in. I assume someone else will review it, not me. But.
Is that Susan speaking to?
That was Susan.
Is that
yeah.
Susan? Okay, great. Great.
Okay.
Any other questions before we move on with the next part of our meeting? Well, we're really grateful and obviously very open to feedback, and obviously we've kind of started, so there's some things that aren't really very kind of fungible at this point, but a lot of stuff could be changed if you have ideas or input. So
we're going to move on to reviewing Mita and Sarah's questions because I know Mita has to run in a couple minutes. Okay. So the first one I saw, it was a lot of just,
let me just give these folks a chance to hang up. So you guys are welcome to hang up or stay on the line, whatever you prefer.
All right.
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. I'll talk to you next week.
Okay. So you both of your critical synthesis packages that you both did, they were both on homelessness. Very similar, but you said yes and you said no to both of them. So I just wanted to see
For which?
Which one?
the critical.
The like inventory
Yeah.
From this month or last month?
both. Yeah, because I think they were both similar, right?
I'm sure. I mean, the titles are very similar. I was nervous I sent you the same.
No, they were slightly different, but they were really similar. And I think I understand why Dr. Bell probably said no, but.
Is it a synthesis package of an assessment tool about homelessness?
There's assessment tools, which I wasn't sure if that could be included, because I agree it's not a curriculum.
It's not a curriculum.
Yeah.
It was one.
Yeah, no, and
But it could be
I think it's
potentially useful if someone develops a curriculum and wants to assess.
Yeah.
But that's where I was.
And I wasn't sure about that. I should have said not sure, because I thought they were validated, like really useful assessment tools to be used.
What kind of setting would they be used in? Is it a real?
If someone's developing a curriculum and wants to assess either a lot of these are for the learner within the curriculum.
Okay.
To see what the effect of the curriculum is, but it doesn't give you the curriculum.
Right. And it
doesn't. I think for one of them, it gave you which curriculum it was validated in. They gave some citations of that, but they didn't list those. Like they didn't.
That wasn't
the
Isn't
point
there
of it.
a separate section on the? Isn't there a separate like school section?
There's a sort of all other stuff section.
Yeah. Because I think that would.
Maybe we should
go
go.
there.
Is there a way of flagging that whenever we see some of those
You
other
can, if you write it in your comments, I would
Okay.
read them.
So we can reject no, say comments, include in the resource. Okay,
Okay.
so that's important.
That sounds like a good idea because
We should do that. 'Cause, I agree. That would be nice to have, like,
Yeah.
if you're developing a curriculum on this, it would be great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay.
I know I emailed you back and I said I think we should put tools in, but I
Yeah.
think that's probably right that it would be a little bit of a bummer.
Not
if
in
you
that
thought you were
specific
getting
thing, but maybe in that other area.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that culture competency?
And it sounds like you said that they are no longer
I
accepting
have
these
the cultural
curriculums.
attitude survey. and
They are
then I also
not,
had,
right. That's what it said on the
cultural
MedEd portal
competency.
site. When we
So
clicked
that's
on the
all-
link,
I only think
I noticed that it
I
had this
did critical
banner
thinking. I
that
did
went
the
up and
attitude
said
survey,
we
like,
have new
at noon.
criteria
Okay.
that we
I
are
think I printed
using.
the journal
And
So,
there were two different
you would
pieces
think
to
I
it.
would go to
One
the
was
resources.
that we have a
Those are go to
specific
Okay.
formatting for
Yeah.
our MedEd portal articles that we
Yeah.
instituted in, I can't remember, 2015 or something, and this
Mhm.
was submitted before then, so it's not in that format.
Oh,
And then the other piece of it for the critical synthesis package was that we are no longer accepting
Yeah, it does say
tools
that. I missed that.
in,
Okay.
Okay.
And the other one, the geriatric psychiatry, substance use and
yeah.
aging.
Yeah. I was just reviewing the PowerPoint again, and I totally get what you mean, but it's not quite up to date.
out of date.
Yeah.
Given new stuff within the
Can you give us some ideas of like, this is the opioid
This
one?
is the
that was like-
opioid one, and it was like, it had epidemiology, but it looked like it could be older, so it was
Okay.
really talking much more, it didn't really have narcotics and
No.
opioids in there, it was really much more about like benzodiazepine use and alcohol, so
Yeah.
that was where I felt like, and it was mostly epidemiologic, so it
Yeah.
wasn't even really, it had some screening tools that were
Mhm.
accessory stuff
Mhm.
within the materials, but it didn't. So if the main point of the curriculum is to talk about epidemiology, I was like, you've got to update what that looks like because it's probably different. And it was before legalization of cannabis in many different places too,
Yeah.
which I think could also.
Do we have anything on
potentially
substance? Substance use we did discuss.
You know,
Yeah, one of our
was that
things.
one of
It
the?
was-
Was that one of the? Was there a checkbox
It
on
wasn't.
substance use? It wasn't, right?
No, it's
Oh.
health behaviors.
Oh.
No,
And it says in parentheses, like,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I
think I
put other and then
I put other and aging because that was the other part.
but you would say this one, you say this is out of date, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah,
we're saying
this is-
no, but if I, let's say it was up to date, what
Yeah.
box would I check about topic area? I ended up checking the other box and
Okay.
filling it in.
Me too.
I missed that point about.
We had this big debate about whether
totally
substance
clear.
use is social determinants or not, so I think that's why we
Yeah.
like kind of couched it in something broader.
Yeah. Because aging was the other part of this, and I don't think there was a specific box for that either, and I haven't run into any other curriculum that have been
On geriatrics.
on geriatrics, which I thought was an interesting, part if it was updated.
Yeah.
I thought that was an interesting part of it.
Yeah.
But it's
I felt like
sad
the
that
topic
it's not
area,
up to
if it was
date.
up to
Yeah.
date, it would have
Yeah.
been reasonable.
Yeah.
Here's a substance use disorder training workshop.
I was gonna say, I know we have some.
Yeah.
And so we should probably just pay attention to how that's been categorized
Mhm.
then within the material. So if someone's looking that up, that it could be, I mean, is health behaviors too broad?
Yeah,
that?
although
'Cause it
fortunately
could be
what
like
people are
diet,
probably going to
exercise.
do is they're probably going to look, they're the filters, they're probably going to search and
What if
say
you
like
type in?
substance, and
Yeah,
if
what
you
if
say
you type in?
substance, like you're going to get weird things too, like just, but you're, here we go. Yeah, so you're going to get like, I know you can't see this, but, I think you're going to get things that
alcohol,
you want.
opioids.
Yes, I think like
yeah, so you
mostly,
could. So as long as you could search it and
Yeah.
make sure that it's
like mostly people are not, this is interesting actually. So once you type in substance, it then only shows you boxes under topics that relate to the items. because one of the issues with the topics is that there are like 25 topics, but you can only see 10 of them. And I know you've been doing a
No,
bunch of
they
things.
actually, so it's not something I can do. So we're waiting for a quote from the web team.
Right.
So they have to, and they're going to build it for every one of them in case,
Yeah.
like, so that it wouldn't just show 10, even if there's more. And then they have to do it on the social determinant side too.
Yeah.
So
Do you know what she's talking about? So she's basically making it so that it'll, when you click see more, you see every box that there is, not just
so
like
yeah,
10.
so they have to build it on the back
That's
side.
also good to know. Like, we should be clicking as many boxes
Yeah.
or whatever, like, that are really relevant or applicable
Yeah.
for this, because it's better to
Yeah.
cross-reference more than less. I think that's probably a really critical piece.
Right. But do you
Should
want us
train-
clicking general
Yeah.
SEOH, like, if
For everyone.
for everyone, like,
I feel
if we
that's
don't
more
have
of a
5?
fallback.
Right.
No, that would be like, I think
Like
general
if it
did anything
SQA
else.
should be like somebody who literally is told, like, you have an hour to teach about S or whatever. You
Yeah,
have like
okay.
a chunk of
It's like
time
my
for
intro lecture for
SEOH,
medical
yeah.
school, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Like,
'cause I
if it doesn't
haven't
deal
done
with a
that.
lot of different SEOHs,
Mhm.
social determinants, then I wouldn't.
Somebody must have added in geriatrics. So there must be some aging stuff because it's been added as a topic by somebody.
Oh, okay.
I thought that.
Where? Somebody added it?
Like
You
as an
put
other?
Oh, and then it
That
comes
might
up
have been
enough.
me, though.
Okay.
That might
Yeah,
have
I
been
think
me.
I definitely put that in with this.
Maybe it was you.
Okay, but it is an other.
Fine, fine, as long as the thing
Work.
So, any other rejected items
Yeah.
that we need to discuss? Thank you, Mika.
Thank you.
I was like trying to remember why I rejected.
Dave, there's one that you and Mabola. This is back, I think, in November, December.
Okay.
It's medical queries, transgender healthcare. I believe.
Medical queries?
You said no.
Oh, no.
Mabola said yes.
Oh.
And this is, I know Mabola's not here, but I just wanted to see if we can figure out if it's true.
What did I?
Right here. Let me make it bigger.
Maybe they said no because of the title.
I'm sorry. You said yes. Mabola said, and I just finished it. You said yes, and Mabola said no.
Huh?
So that's yours.
All right.
You liked it.
Give it the thumbs up.
Sorry, I'm gonna sign Mabola.
But we have other better things.
Do we?
I feel like that's tricky because now we are getting to a point where we've read a bunch of different things, and you can start to say like, oh, maybe some of the things that I approved earlier, the things I'm seeing now, are better, or there's things now that I'm like, I might have said yes to this at the beginning, but now I know we have all of these that are better. So I wonder if we want to do, like, if it makes sense to do a secondary process where we then take like, okay, here are all the ones we have for a given topic, and kind of look through and maybe give some highlighted ones or like best in show type. Sorry, we just watched that.
That's such a great movie.
Not the movie, we watched the actual.
Oh, you watched
show.
the Witness.
Oh yeah. So, do you know, like, because maybe it's.
I mean, I totally get what you're saying. I think I would lean against doing that because I feel like there's something that'll be different about each curriculum where somebody has only a certain amount of time or a certain level of learner, and it'll mean that they need to.
Wouldn't want to.
Right, but that's where I'm like, I'm not
Yeah.
sure if this. So then I'm not sure if we should reject
it.
based on the way that she said it.
I agree. So I would encourage her to keep it if she feels that it doesn't meet the rejection criteria, and maybe you could send those to. I mean, like, I don't know if we have those listed. We do have them listed in a nice way in the submission portal thing of like what we accept, and it's like, does it meet these criteria, or was it referring to trans people as transsexual or something that really needs to like not be there? Like,
Could we, in the rejection criteria box, you know, when we say like reject, yes,
yeah, that's a good,
can we add into that like the rejection criteria?
good idea.
Yeah, probably.
That's a really good idea. few
Also-
reminders.
I keep forgetting that we have
Yeah.
them.
A question about the course first things that we check. If it's not med ed, I'm realizing now I could assume that it was not submitted by author, it's other. But when we receive stuff that's not med ed thus far, it doesn't tell us what the source is. I don't know if there's a way to change the form, or when you send it to us, say it was received by, because now it's stuff. It's just, I don't know what it is, what the source was.
Yeah. I mean, I'm realizing now that we have more non-med ed portal things. That I think like our lists were med ed portal and then other, right? That's kind of all we
Med ed portal
had.
submitted by author.
Oh, right. Thank you.
The question of whether it's submitted by author or not.
Yeah. I think it's okay to just say other. I mean, Claire can then go.
I mean, I know where they all come from.
Maybe
so
we should just take that box. Maybe you
do
should.
Do we want the information though, like on the website?
We do. It's
we
just
should
that
leave
you
it.
know better the answer.
Because I can.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm changing it. I can just make it changes. So if you put other, I know where I can. I'm just either gonna put online, like the farm one you did or this time.
Yeah.
I
don't know where it came from.
Yeah,
Did the
that
author
was
submit it? I have no
online
idea.
Google search, but I'll do it online.
You put it online, and then but you also could put like the U.S. Department of Agriculture or something if you see like like an organizing body.
Yeah, and like
that
some people
is
did when it was
posting this.
XPFN, they put in that.
So I guess do you want it to be there just so you have something to remind
remember.
you?
Yeah,
Okay,
I would
so
like to
put
keep
other,
it.
I guess, right now. If that's okay. Okay.
Okay.
So we'll ask Mabola.
So I'll ask
she'd be
Mabola,
willing
but
to
you
put
like
back.
it. The other one is about my next question is about the lupus one you both sent me, and Ashti said no to, so that was my question.
Oh, interesting.
And I watched a lot of that actually, and I watched it very quickly, honestly. It isn't great in terms of what it was trying to do. It's basically interactions with an African American woman in which they aren't listening to what her, like deliberately, Roz Ramsey Goldman is like not listening to her. She's worried about her hair loss. Roz is worried about her swelling in her legs, and it's like it turns out that it's all lupus, but there's a lot of stuff about social determinants. It's really high production quality, and there's nothing bad about it. It's just more about like empathic history taking and being sensitive, but there are a lot of points that relate to African American women, and just I think the reason it feels kind of generic is that they want to be careful not to kind of stereotype, but
What was Ashti's issue?
It would be helpful if I blow it up.
Oh, I don't think that that's only about lupus, though.
What? That it's only about lupus? It is only about lupus.
Right, but the principles can be applied.
Right.
Like the point is like you're supposed to be empathic and you're supposed to pay attention to your patient.
Yeah.
Which I know boils it down, makes it sound really easy. It's
right.
Where that doesn't.
I mean, I think like if you were a rheumatology fellowship director and you needed to add in some bias-free curricula, something that really shows that you're teaching about cultural sensitivity, then you might actually.
Right. And we have don't we have a box where it says like specialty specific? So you can put like particularly rheumatology.
Yeah. Yeah. A robust, I think she meant more in there, and I'd like to hear more about what she was
So
saying.
she and I had a philosophical discussion, like we ran into each other and we're having a philosophical discussion about wording that we're getting too difficult. And then your email, Heather, to me offline was helpful. And I'm like, I need to probably go back and be less difficult.
She says, I'm on service giving 3 talks next week. I can get it done by the end of February. I can't be at the meeting, but I'll catch up via phone. I could be convinced, but I spent some time trying to figure out if they were the best representation of culture. I just like to hear specifically what she reacted to, because I may have missed something that was really problematic, but it's hard to not post something out of Northwestern that is exactly.
Yeah.
So I'd like to try to post it.
She and I were both saying we thought that we might have been getting overly sensitive about. And like
but you sent me the email.
And she and I both overthink things. We were laughing at.
No, but I think that that's a relevant thing to bring up in this meeting.
Which will get.
So the practical answer is that.
Should we just save it for next meeting?
Save it for next meeting, I guess. Yeah. Or, I mean, actually, Claire, are you on her email? I
don't think so.
No.
Unless this was recent, like that doesn't sound familiar.
It's in my in basket, so I think it's not in my in basket. back in my in basket. I'll email her back too and say, can you just give me some examples of specific things module that you found to be go from there.
Okay.
So, Bridget, actually, you said you want to bring up your concern because I think it is
Sure.
an issue.
So I was going through, there's one in particular that resource that I was looking at, and I realized that all of our, a lot of the resources are all focused on specific kind of patterns of patients. So let me just find my email to you and how I phrased it. As I review a larger body of references, I notice that certain constructs tend to revolve more around certain patient populations. So like medication non-adherence cases of women from the Dominican Republic with limited English proficiency who's poor, or case centering on sexual history taking is a young immigrant woman with limited English proficiency with unplanned pregnancy, encouraging IPV screening and contraceptive counseling. And just a lot of the patients are all limited English proficiency, poor, are we thinking about social determinants of health in a way that's potentially stereotyping? And with some of the LGBTQ cases, are all of the, some of the cases are, one of the cases that we had to reject, was actually a couple who'd been monogamous for 30 years, and it was an end-of-life case and was thoughtful. But a lot of the others are, men who have sex with men with multiple partners. And how are we portraying groups in ways that are stereotyped? And I don't know, I think as a one-off, any individual case, maybe a patient that you saw. But if in our compendium, if we look and we had a catalog of all the cases that are represented in our curriculum, do we find problematic patterns? And I don't know how to address that. And I wanted to bring it up as something to think about. And one of the ones that prompted me to think about this, I'm going back through it again, and I'm thinking, this actually looks better than I was thinking it was. I think I was responding initially to the fact that it was, I think some of it is because it was around contraception, and there's a lot of discussion right now about how providers bring bias, particularly to young women of limited financial means, and maybe with contraceptive coercion and this idea that we're trying to convince young women that they shouldn't want to have children when they do. And so some of the case I think I was reading with that lens of, 24-year-old woman, she has 2 kids, one's 2 and one's 6. She works 6 days in a factory. She's a single mom. She had an abortion last year. She's sexually active with her boyfriend of 3 months. Talk to her about ITV, and it's well, but ITV crosses, so do we only talk about ITV when we're talking about our patients who have more social poverty and other issues, and not when we're talking about prominent neurologists? Thinking of a specific prominent neurologist who was killed by her husband a few years ago. Does that make any sense? So I might be overthinking.
It's not overthinking. It's
hard to do anything about.
Paradox is the right word, but basically we are social determinants and vulnerable populations kind of go together. And so if you want to have people thinking about vulnerable populations, you're not writing about prominent neurologists.
No, right.
And so.
And I don't want to not do, but I also. Yeah. It's just that tricky issue where. Yeah.
And I think it's kind of a problem of what curriculum. Yeah, obviously looking at the ones that are already.
I mean, it is the reason why we had some debate about certain topics, substance misuse. You don't think is about social determinants because it is a medical problem that crosses all lines. But we decided that it was because it's socially, there's a huge social component of it, but some of that may be present in people who are privileged as well, right?
So I think it was more just in some of the specific women's health topics, there's problematic pieces to how that's been construed.
I mean, I think that's a place also to just, you could make a note of that, that you might caution your students to recognize that actually, this problem is something that you would see in multiple populations, not solely people of limited English proficiency or something like that. Because I would hate to, I feel like people are writing about these groups because they want these groups to be
represented. And I'm with you. I'm with you, and I want to do,
but
I'm also, I think
Yeah.
just sensitive to like exactly what you were talking about, like how we've rewritten cases in the medical school around LGBTQ because students have said, I feel like this stereotypes in a way that's not appropriate. And a lot of the cases that I'm reading are in that vein.
But I think, Bridget, maybe what like the larger thing is that like that gets into like what a whole curriculum should look like, and we're having like little fragments of curricula.
Totally.
And we might tell people, make sure your curriculum is really inclusive, which means
So maybe somewhere on our website, maybe at the top of our collaborative.
Maybe you could write a blog about this.
I don't think I'm the right person. I have a lot of imposter syndrome around being on this team, and so I don't know that I'm the right person to write that blog, but I wonder, I could maybe co-author it with like Ashti or somebody who I think lives in this world more.
Yeah.
But just wondering if at the top of our
education collection
that we have a statement like that maybe Mita could write because she's so good with words. That says, as we want to make this something that's as easy to access as possible, where a person could, take resources off of our website and use them when constructing. However, many of these are small pieces of a larger whole, and when constructing that whole, we as educators must be mindful about, all of these issues.
So Ashti agreed with you, right? Ashti felt similarly.
Well, we were just we both were worried we were overthinking things and maybe rejecting things too easily.
I definitely think don't overthink.
It almost feels
that's be a
like
different
a research paper you can write.
No, I mean, I definitely.
Once the
just laughing.
website's almost done.
Pardon?
It almost feels like a research paper you can write once the website's almost done. Or if you were to be like,
go through the website.
Here's all the resources we've collected via X, Y, and Z.
Here are all the patient cases.
Here's the populations for this topic.
Yeah.
The populations for that topic.
Yeah.
How does that contrast with, the actual, say, U.S. topic?
That's actually a really thoughtful point.
Might be kind of a,
So maybe that's my submission to Lauren Gard's email.
What is it?
The research project for next year is to do an inventory of all of the cases and see what the representation, how much the representation of the cases mirrors.
Relatively efficient kind of way.
Yeah, that's a good thought. Thank you, research colleagues.
We do.
Yeah. All right.
So should we go through?
Yeah. So
my notes. I had a bunch of them, I think. So let's talk about sex. Can you show me what I said? Because I think this is the one where I was worried about the cases, and I just can undo that and write a paragraph, which I think I might have given you a paragraph anyway. I hope that this is one of the ones where I did both. Nope. I did.
Yeah. This resource introduces first.
Oh, and then I said yes, but I said I wanted to talk about it.
You emailed me.
Okay, perfect. Okay, good. So that one's good.
So this one, we're moving.
Yes, it's fine.
Okay.
So then let's see. There was a standardized patient case from Pittsburgh that was an end-of-life case that talked a lot about the challenges the couple faced because of the lack of legal status for their marriage. And now marriage is legal.
Oh.
And so I suggested that we write to them and ask if they have a new case, because it's such a thoughtfully, beautifully done case, but a large chunk of it is no longer relevant.
Yeah.
And so I wanted us to check in with them.
Would you be able to reach out to
Yeah,
them?
that was on my list.
Do you feel comfortable writing that? Just like now that marriage, this is same-sex marriage. Right?
Yeah, and Twee Bui is on the community of practice and is there and super involved, so you could always probably CC her if you're worried that nobody's going to write back.
Oh, yeah. That's cool. That's really interesting.
Yeah. I know, it was kind of like, I was reading her, I was like, oh,
too bad same-sex marriage is legal.
And then I got to this other part and was like, this is wonderful. This is relevant. Though I think there were still pieces, right, to the experiences they had with healthcare and with people making assumptions that were.
But it's not like something where you could,
chunk of it was about the legal.
You couldn't just write something in your description like change this one word.
Yeah, no, it would need a little bit more. So what are my others? Major. That one. Major. So what about it? That's in red. Major public health issue as a vehicle for interprofessional simulated. Oh, there wasn't anything social determinants of health. Like, I don't think of obesity by itself as talking about social determinants of health. Okay.
I mean, unless they're talking, I mean, there's where you get
That
to,
one
like,
wasn't
in a
getting into food
vulnerable, in a
insecurity.
vulnerable population, in a member of a vulnerable population,
This wasn't.
it becomes, and in not, it doesn't
Yeah.
really, right?
And
Like,
so
you
this
can
was
get
just-
whatever food you
yeah.
want, but you just have.
This was like a run-of-the-mill obesity case that didn't
Yeah.
get into that at all? Okay.
Yeah.
So that one we're okay with saying no. Do I not have other no's in there?
Yeah.
You do.
Bummer, I live next to 5 French bakeries and a Whole Foods.
Yeah.
I just really liked it.
There's so many Michelin-starred restaurants.
Yeah.
in walking distance from my house.
Maybe we should make like an unsocial.
Okay. So,
Yeah, right.
this is Rita Lee's. Oh yeah, I think this is the one where like one of the stated learning objectives was to teach about social determinants of health with regard and health disparities. And then they didn't talk about health disparities at all. And it was really focused on sexual history. And I think we have so many things.
Yeah.
And the language was outdated on the didactic. So I feel comfortable with that one. And then what
Wait,
was
so are
that?
these many like older med ed portal things? Is that what's happening? We're getting it down to the old
What's
med-ed.
that 2012 clinical topics? Oh, clinical topics in global health. I thought like was very much a global health curriculum. So it was like when you go abroad and you encounter a child with diarrhea. There was one lecture in the entire thing that talked about social determinants of health that was reasonably well done, but it was done by, I'm blanking, Patrick Lee, who used to be at MGH and ran their global health primary care, and who's now, I think, at North Shore, like Boston North Shore, running their health system. And it just felt a little biased towards his model of how to do things around social determinants of health that he, I think, was trying to implement without a lot of data. So I didn't even know that we should include his, like, that.
Is it med-ed portal?
No, yes.
What
But it's just one, it's like a giant curriculum, and it's one tiny thing in that whole piece.
Yeah. I mean, other people can jump in, but I would say that, like, I would have a higher bar for these med-ed portal things than I would, like, if it was non-med-ed portal, and also that allows you to just, like, go to the, like, to his little curriculum and cite and have that be what you get to, then I think that might be
a different story.
Like, I'm just wanting to get to diversify away from med-ed portal, so I'm having a lower bar.
And he left the Harvard system and I can't find a way to get in touch with him. Okay. So that's reasonable.
Yeah.
And then
we already talked about this one.
Oh yeah, those two can both go to tools. Though that one, so the cultural competence OSCE, it's a cultural competence OSCE. It's from maybe 2007. So that was another one where I thought, like, maybe we should reach out to the HMS OSCE crew and say, like, hey, have you updated this case?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not bad, but I think they may have, like, it's 12 years old and they might be doing something better now.
Yeah.
This one?
Yes, but the contact person there is the person who reviewed. It's not the, right? So Anna Cianciolo is at SIU, and she wrote the review. She didn't write the resource. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. I mean, I would just take that out because it's a tool, first of all. I wouldn't even bother reaching out to them right now. I mean, we may be reaching out to lots of people for things.
Are there any others that we needed to go through for me?
Anything else for this room, because I know we're kind of over time.
Yeah. There are some from Katie. I have to like run in just a minute.
Okay.
These are my list. If you want to look through, like, the ones that aren't checked.
I think I also had one of the critical synthesis packages, and it was just an instrument.
Mm-hmm.
That one. The one that I think would be helpful to have a second set of eyes on. There was one that focuses on LGBTQ health, but they have an adolescent volunteer come and talk about their experience. I was a little hesitant. I don't know, I think almost like from an IRB perspective, with kids, like, I don't know, that's the wrong way, like, I should endorse that.
I anticipated minor, which would be a little bit different, right? We worried about that with my worries of UIC's curriculum and decided that was, like, where...
What was that?
It was an issue of, like, I was worried that it might be putting the panelists for the SPs in a difficult position because, like, is exposing them to medical students who might have difficult beliefs, something that will traumatize them, and they talked about how to handle that. And then you and I talked, and you said, no, like, it's actually like an important thing that many of the actors feel like proud of and happy that they can do this because they see it as part of their mission. And so it's all in how that's handled with the person who's coming to visit.
Yeah, I think as long as
you were more worried that with an adolescent they're more vulnerable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I want to them to get something out of it, and that would be a great learning opportunity. Okay, you're you. That's fine. Doing this.
We can talk about it later.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Yeah.
You and I should just talk separate, like.
So would that be a caveat?
I want to like.
I think I could probably try to weave that in the review. I think
is the rest okay?
Yeah. Yeah, let me know.
I think that was my major concern. I didn't think, maybe if they just put out of it, but I think it just depends who's implementing it.
So it's an adolescent who is LGBTQ.
Yeah, and they come to small group sessions and talk about their experiences and stuff, but again, like, I think my concern was about the participant, like, are these kids benefiting in any way, or is that, like, a potentially traumatic kind of experience?
Yeah.
Sort of.
Why did they choose an adolescent? Was this adolescent volunteered, or?
This was a pediatric.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's a particularly vulnerable, like, LGBT adolescents. LGBT adolescents are a particular vulnerable group.
I can totally imagine so many kids in my daughter's grade that would be like so excited to come. And I think like the only way you're going to get that person is through a clinician, right? Like someone's not going to just grab somebody. So I don't know that I would say I think that the person would use a lot of sensitivity, and like these are all health learners, I'm assuming, right? So like we often bring real patients in, and I wouldn't,
So we also are I'm just thinking about, like, we're practicing in Chicago.
Yeah.
I'm imagining applying this in Omaha. Yeah. And that, like, no, not to malign my hometown. I'm thinking Omaha because it's my hometown. But cultural attitudes are a little bit different there. And, like, I had friends who moved there who were like, oh, we need to get out of Omaha.
Did they say how they recruited the person?
Yeah.
I think, I don't know that they went into a lot of detail about that. The other red flag, for me, and this might not be an issue, but the instruments that they use to evaluate the curriculum effectiveness, they were asking students how much they agreed with the statement that same-sex behavior is a natural expression, and my husband thinking, no, like that not be on the table.
Yeah, that I might throw it out for.
Also, there is a lot of stuff that we have on LGBTQ stuff, so it sounds like it's got a few issues.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It out.
I mean, that's so weird. It sounded like the instrument might have been from somewhere else, but
adapted poorly. Mm-hmm. I do appreciate having this form to go over the rejected ones because I don't know why I've had more anxiety about my rejection.
I feel like I rejected more too. And I think we're getting to the older stuff.
Yeah, but also just around some of the constructs and not